Good morning. Welcome to today's service. I'm Jed Shapiro, your worship associate. Leading our service is Reverend Roger Jones, who will be joined by three of our members, Bobby, Tamim, and Hallie. On cello this morning, we welcome Kenji Oda, and in the AV control room, we have Dirk Tuel and Ivan Caballero. While our doors are closed now, our hearts are open and this congregation is active. To find out how active, you can visit our website or read the weekly email message, which comes out weekly. Tomorrow morning on Zoom, catch a reflection on a poem. Tomorrow night, join a racial justice conversation on Zoom. Our Vesper service Tuesday night explores accepting change at 7 p.m. right here in this Zoom space. Wellspring Wednesday this week brings Reverend Roger leading a conversation on process theology, also 7 p.m. in this Zoom space. At UUSS, we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. We welcome all who choose to spend time with us, and if you're new, we extend a special welcome. If you'd like to complete an online visitor's card, visit uuss.org/visitors. We'll send you information about our programs. Our official greeter this morning is Judy Lane. Welcome, Judy. If you type "I'm new" in the chat box, Judy will greet you with a private welcome message. Two other announcements. One, our diaper drive supporting the River City Food Bank starts on April 26. You can drop off wipes and diapers of any size at the UUSS office from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The drive dramatically concludes with a diaper drive-through day on May 8. Join the parade of cars dropping diapers as donations in the UUSS parking lot from 1 to 3 on May 8th. More information in the minister's message and on Facebook. In 2009, we collected 1,500 diapers. We're going for 2,000 this year. Our stewardship committee sends a grateful thank you to all who have confirmed their pledge of monetary support to UUSS for the coming budget year. If you've not yet made your pledge, please let them know of your intentions before tomorrow, if you would. It's easy. Just go to uuss.org/pledge. Now let's join Reverend Roger as we prepare to light the chalice.
Good morning, Jed. Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. Glad you're here. It is time to light the chalice, so grab your chalice or your candle and prepare to light together. But first, we have some chalice lighting words, which we will have as a responsive reading. They are from the Reverend Brian Kiley, who is a lifelong Canadian and a retired Unitarian minister. He was formerly the president of the Canadian Unitarian Council. The words will appear on the screen. I will begin, and then you and Jed will respond with the words in bold. And then after that, we will light the chalice. In times of darkness, we stumble towards the tiny flame.
In times of cold, we seek the warming fire.
In times of repression, we lift up the lamp of truth and freedom.
In times of loss, we pray for the comforting light.
In times of joy, we light a candle of celebration.
O Spirit of life and love, as we kindle this flame, help us all to find what we need in this time.
We gather here with joys and sorrows on our hearts, and this is a time in our service when we invite you to share joys and sorrows, hopes and prayers, your reasons for celebration or gratitude. And we do that using the chat. So if you click the chat icon, usually in the bottom of the screen, you will be able to post, and you will see there are some choices of who you can send your chat to. So you should make sure it says everyone so that it's publicly posted. And if you would like to read and bear witness to what other people are posting, if you click the chat icon, then a scroll will open up on the side of the page so you can read what everybody posts. And we will take about 2 minutes for our joys and sorrows, and we will hear traditional music from Afghanistan as we do, and we will see a second sculpture by the sculptor Bruno Catalano.
گر کنم صاحب من بر تو نگاهی گاهی گر کنم صاحب من بر تو نگاهی گاهی افکن می شود از بنده گناهی گاهی افکن می شود از بنده گناهی گاهی افکن می شود متاسف می کدرا ساختم ویران سد حیف متاسف می کدرا ساختم ویران سد حیف می گرفتیم در آن خانه پناهی گاهی گر کنم صاحب من بر تو نگاهی گاهی گر کنم صاحب من بر تو نگاهی گاهی افکن
We want to note in particular the passing of Dr. Emmett Smith, the husband of our member Karen Smith. I extend our love and condolences to Karen and their family, and gratitude for his life and all he brought to life. For all others who've lost loved ones, we do extend our condolences and hope you will reach out for support. For those who are celebrating achievements of milestones or occasions of reunion or other good news, we send our blessings to you and congratulations. To those of you with worried souls in these times or with aching hearts, please know that you are not alone and you are loved. This past week has been so hard for so many. In addition to the ongoing losses due to COVID-19 infections, violence continues to shatter any illusions of safety or fairness in this country. Last week in my hometown of Indianapolis, A 19-year-old male with a gun took the lives of 8 people, plus his own, and left several wounded. 4 of the victims were Indian Americans from the Sikh or Sikh faith. In Minnesota, where George Floyd last summer was asphyxiated by a police officer, an unarmed Black man named Dante Clark died from police gunfire last week. Dante was 20. In Chicago, heart-rending video shows the police killing of Adam Toledo in late March. Adam was 13. Let us hold our broken hearts with tenderness and care. Let us reach out to share the strength and courage we need to bear witness to lives taken too soon and so unjustly. With all that is going on here and around the world, I feel a need to center myself, take some deep inhale breaths and let them out, and I invite you to join me. Let us breathe in, hold it for a moment, and then breathe out deeply to ground ourselves in our breath. Let us breathe in again deeply, pause for a moment, and then breathe out deeply to ground ourselves in an awareness of our bodies. And as we continue breathing and being present together, I invite you to join me in the spirit of intention and aspiration for these words of prayer. O Spirit of life and energy, renew our lives for this new day. O Spirit of love and mercy, have mercy on us. Have mercy on this world and on all our fellow human beings, so that all might live in peace and unafraid. Turn our hearts toward mercy for one another. Direct our actions and reactions away from hostility, resentment, despair, selfishness, scapegoating, and all other sources of pain and violence. Turn our hearts toward mercy for all our kindred creatures of the land and sea and air, so that they might live and thrive on this planet. Spirit, open our senses and our minds so that we might notice and we might remember the simple gift of life, that we might be nourished by the beauty of this world we share. Let us give thanks for this world, and let us love it. And let us give thanks for every good gift. So may it be, blessed be, and amen. Now, as we pause in silence, let us prepare to sing a hymn which is familiar to some of us because it's number 159 in our gray hymnal. This is my song. The Harvard University Choir is providing the music, and we can sing along on the slides for this prayerful hymn.
Soul
In the month of April, our community partner is the International Rescue Committee, the local office in particular. It helps refugees to escape war and persecution and start new lives in new places. At present, about 80 million people around the world have been forced to flee their homes, about a third of them under age 18. Many are living indefinitely in refugee camps. We don't need that slide now. Many of them are living indefinitely in refugee camps, often in their own countries. Others have resettled in other countries. 0.1% of them have moved to the United States. Statistics on refugees can feel so overwhelming that we can forget that each refugee is a person with a story that's unique, a life that is precious. At UUSS, our Soul Matters theme for this month of April is called Becoming. Our speakers today are talking about the ordeal of becoming refugees and becoming people whose lives straddle two or more nations. They are showing the empathy which their journeys have generated. They are opening their hearts to you with trust because you are their neighbors, their friends, their own congregation. All three of our speakers are citizens of the United States. All three came from countries torn and broken by war for 3 or 4 decades. Yet their life stories are distinct from one another. Their experiences are varied. I will introduce them now, and then we will hear from each of them. Bobby joined UUSS with her husband, Gary, about 5 years ago. She's been active as a leader on stewardship campaigns, the service auction, and the Soup Sunday luncheons, among other things. As a girl, Bobby and her family left Germany after the Second World War. Tamim began attending our UUSS services on Zoom last year after the pandemic lockdown began. He is a member of one of our Soul Matters groups, and he's spoken before at our Sunday and Tuesday services. Tamim brought his family here from Afghanistan 8 years ago on a special immigrant visa because he had worked for the US government and had worked for the US Army. Hallie joined UUSS about 5 years ago. She is a member of our Board of Trustees and has served on our nominating committee and our environmental justice committee, working with Sacramento area congregations together. Hallie grew up in the country of Eritrea. At age 20, she came to Sacramento to join her family. We will hear from each one of them, and then we will pause to let their words settle into our hearts with either music or silence. And the chat on Zoom will not be available until at the end of the service. So we can have those moments for reflection without distraction. Our first musical interlude after we hear from Bobby will be from our member Kenji Ota. I thank them all, and now we will hear from Bobby.
Good morning. I'm Bobby Keel, and in May 1953, we left Germany and arrived by ship from Holland into the harbor of New York, following the path traveled by millions of other refugees and immigrants before us. I remember it just like it was yesterday. We were arriving as the sun was setting, the Statue of Liberty was in front of us, and behind us was this huge skyline of the New York City. It was incredible. We had finally arrived in the promised land. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. Those iconic words were on the Statue of Liberty, certainly embodied us, my parents, my two brothers, and me. We brought with us 2 small trunks, a $700 debt to the Lutheran Church for our passage, and a low-paying job as a laborer for my father in Flanders, New Jersey, who had a PhD in agriculture. But we also brought with us hope for the future. It was a long and a difficult journey, which began at the end of World War II in 1945, when I was 8 months old. At the time, we were living in the Czech Republic in the Sudetenland area, which was primarily ethnic German, where my father was in charge of agricultural production for the German army. And then in spring of 1945, the ethnic Germans started to flee as the Russians were approaching that area. And it was during that time too that my mother led 100 women and children from Czechoslovakia to an abandoned youth camp at the Czech-German border. Of course, I don't remember it, but my brother, my oldest brother, remembers when we got there, we had no food. He was afraid we were going to starve, but he was even more afraid that the Russians would get there. And the Americans came with life-sustaining food. Eventually, we ended up in Schleswig-Holstein, which is the northernmost province of Germany, with 2 million other refugees in this small province. And the locals hated us, even though we were German and they were German, but we were taking away from their limited resources and housing, and they made our life quite unpleasant. And one document, they referred to us as rats, so it gives you an idea. And as kids, we were constantly bullied by the other kids in the village and even by some of the teachers. We considered it a good day if we got home from school without getting beat up. And that lasted about 6 years. Our immigrant experience in the United States started basically 2 days after we got here, because we started school and we didn't speak any English, and we certainly looked like the poor and huddled masses. My brothers and I just wanted to assimilate, and we didn't want to be noticed, but that's not so easy when I'm wearing a hair design that was a bird's nest, kind of stood out, and old-fashioned high-top shoes when all the other girls were wearing Mary Janes. But I have to say, for the most part, people were kind, even though it was 8 years after the war. But some of the children would run after me on the playground, and they go, "Hotsy totsy, look at that little Nazi." And when I asked my mom if we were Nazis, she said, "We're not Nazis, we're Germans." My 2 oldest brothers absolutely wanted to assimilate and refused to speak German and rejected everything German. But I have maintained the language and studied German literature in college and have kept many of the traditions of my German heritage. My college studies and my oral and written history of my family has kept me closely connected to my ancestors, and I have a deep sense of my homeland, Silesia, which is now part of Poland. But I have to say, as a child in America, there were often times when I really felt lonely, especially during the holidays when everybody else was getting together with their big extended family, and there was always just the 5 of us. And today, because I understand the challenges facing refugees, I have found ways to support those newly arrived refugees by working with the International Rescue Society Committee and the River City Food Bank. And both of those really give me the work of the heart and that satisfaction. I have to say, I do live every day in gratitude for the precious gift my parents gave us children. a new start in a country where we had the opportunities to become our best selves, to thrive and to pass on the immigrant values of resilience and determination to the next generation. To end my presentation, I would like to read a poem in German, and it is by a beloved Silesian poet, Joseph von Eichendorff. And in this poem, he talks about the magic of a full moon night where it feels like the heavens have gently kissed the earth. And then he goes on to describe the wind flowing fragrantly over the fields and the gentle movement of the trees and the sound of the wind in the forest. And then in the last stanza, he talks about how his soul takes flight and flies over the quiet land as if it were going home. And I have to say, when I read this poem, I have this deep longing for a homeland that I never knew. So here's the poem. Mondnacht. Es war, als hätte der Himmel die Erde still geküsst, dass sie im Blütenschimmer von ihm nun träumen müsst. Die Luft ging durch die Felder, die Ähren wogten sacht, es rauschten leis die Felder, so sternklar war die Nacht. Und meine Seele spannte weit ihre Flügel aus, flog durch die stillen Länder, als flöge sie nach Haus.
That was Prince Charles's Last View of Scotland, composed in the mid-18th century, memorializing his defeat and exile to France after the Jacobite Rebellion.
Good morning, everyone. I am Tamim, originally from Afghanistan, and I have been living in Sacramento for 8 years. How I came to the United States. There is a visa called SIV, stand for Special Immigrant Visa. Those who worked directly with the U.S. Armed Force or under Chief of Mission or authority at U.S. Embassy Baghdad or U.S. Embassy Kabul, they're eligible for this visa. I'm one of them. It's my honor today to talk about millions of desperate families Families sometimes consider it illegal, sometimes consider it just a number. When I say disparate families, because research in 2017 shows that there are 65.3 million people who have been forcibly displaced from their home because of war, discrimination, and persecution. The large number, 11 millions, are from Syria, and 33,000 people flee their homes from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, daily. The vast majority remain in refugee camps, whose conditions cannot be defined as a human under any definition. This is the highest number of refugees since World War II. So let me tell you why this is an important issue to me. I'm an Afghan, I'm an immigrant, and I'm a Muslim. I have spent at least 3 years of my life working with different organizations to help refugees. And I feel how difficult to be separate from your loved ones. Also, I am a father of 3 kids, and my oldest daughter, Sadaf, was 2 years old when we left Afghanistan, and she is now 9 years old. She's always asking me, are we going to visit Afghanistan? Because I miss my grandmother, grandfather, and my childhood friends. After the President Joe Biden finalized the date for the American troops will leave Afghanistan soon, she came and asked me, Dad, one thing really bothering me, that I will never meet again my grandmother, grandfather, and my aunts, because the US and their allies will withdraw their troops from Afghanistan, and there is no guarantee for survival. We will never meet or travel again. But I don't have any answer for her. Another short story. A few months ago, I talked with one of my friends. She's originally from Iraq. She's break down, carrying over the phone and said, why do hate us? Why they do hate us? I asked, who hates you? She said, everyone. Everyone hates us because we are refugee, because we are Muslim. In the past, I was able to reassure my friends that majority of the world does not hate refugees, but this time I couldn't. I couldn't explain to her why someone attempts to rip off her mother's hijab when they were in grocery shopping, or why some people called her a terrorism or insurgents and told her go back where she came from. I couldn't reassure her that her father's ultimate life sacrifice by serving in the United States military as an interpreter would make her more valued as an American citizen. In general, we resettle few refugees worldwide. We resettle less than 0.1%. That 0.1% is benefit us more than them. It shocked me when the word refugee is considered something to be dirty, something to be ashamed of. They have nothing to be ashamed, for sure. They have nothing to be ashamed. Lastly, we have seen advances in every aspect of life except our humanity. Thank you for your listening to me.
There's a place for us somewhere, a place for us, peace and quiet and open air. Wait for us There's a place for us, a time and place for us. Hold my hand and we're halfway there. Hold my hand and I'll take you there. Somehow, someday, somewhere.
Kami hadirkum. Good morning. My name is Hali Kasai. As a refugee, I straddle cultures and continents. Part of me always feels missing. I am from Eritrea, where my family can trace our lineage for 20 generations. When I was growing up, Eritrea was under Ethiopian occupation. Until I was 5 years old, the only thing that truly scared me were Franciscan nuns with their habit. In fact, when I met them as my kindergarten teachers, I wet my pants. A few months after that, war broke out in our city by our neighborhood, so I didn't get to see my new friends, the nuns, anymore. We lived life cloistered in my grandmother's neighborhood at the other end of the city where it was safer. And we played with our cousins all day and heard stories from the elders by candlelight at night. I cherish many memories from my childhood. My tight-knit group of studious nerd friends, the love and unwavering steadiness of my grandmothers that sustained us through the realities of war, my large extended family, the bells of the Lutheran church where my family worshiped, the sound of the called prayer from the nearby mosque, the sound of the prayer chants coming from the Coptic church, the smell of ripe fruit coming from the markets, the consideration for elders, the profound sense of hospitality and community. I miss all of these things. When I was 18 years old, it was time for me to leave and escape the Ethiopian occupation. I fled to Greece, where I asked for asylum and was denied. So I lived for 2.5 years in Athens, Greece, as an undocumented immigrant, surviving on whatever jobs I could find. A few months shy of 21, I joined my family in Sacramento. Although I have grown to love Sacramento, I have to say it wasn't love at first sight. When I was growing up, I fought the box people tried to put me in. So I played soccer on the streets with the boys, and I was the only girl who rode her bike to school. I got my hair cut at the barbershop for men instead of getting a lopsided Afro cut at home. Likewise, when I arrived here in the US, I learned that people prefer to put me in another box. I was not Black enough for Black people, and white people believed I had been a starving child in Africa. My color and my accent meant that college counselors assumed I wasn't smart. As a refugee, I'm expected to be grateful. And I am grateful for my life here in Sacramento, just as I am grateful for all of my life that came before that. But the reality is more complicated than the story of being saved as a refugee. I stepped out of one war in Eritrea into a different battle in the United States. I remember when I was growing up, the terror of watching first my father, then my brother have guns held to their heads by soldiers during the war. Yet every time there is another Black man killed or Black woman killed by police violence in the US, that fear for my family is triggered again. It is always with me. Sometimes I wonder if we made the right choice to come here. Still, Sacramento has become my home. This is where I fell in love and married my best friend. I have built a life here of chosen family and friends, including you. If I were able to return back to Eritrea, I know that this part of me would be missing there too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Hallie. I invite you to take, everyone to take just a half a minute of silence with me, just to reflect on and receive all that we have been given by these members. And I invite you to join me in lifting up prayers for peace, safety, enough to eat for all God's children all over this world, for all our siblings, and pray for courage to continue to lift our voices, to continue to open our hearts. Amen. And thank you. As I mentioned, our community partner in the month of April is the International Rescue Committee, particularly the local office. And you'll see on the slide, what this means is that half of our offering donations in the month of April will go to the International Rescue Committee office. You'll see there ways to donate online, by text, or by sending a check here to the church, and Ivan will post in the chat the ways to donate as well, so that they will be available. We have a greeting from one of our friends who's a staff member at the local office, which we'll see right now.
Greetings. If we have not yet had the opportunity to meet, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Missy. I'm the Community Engagement Manager with the International Rescue Committee in Sacramento. I want to start off by thanking you all individually and collectively for the dynamic support that you provide to our organization and to refugees resettling in the community by the generosity and welcome that you share. So thank you for the ongoing and continued support that UUSS has provided our office in Sacramento over the years and continues with this generous donation drive fundraising during this month to split your offerings. So thank you so much. We could not do what we do without the support of our community. Last year in the pandemic, when we got the last split offering donation, we were able to support some of our highest need families with rental assistance and utility assistance. We got laptops and technology into hands so that we could connect some of the more isolated families that we serve. Your support is invaluable and we thank you. Quick update on where we stand right now. We are still receiving new arrivals. Sacramento has received the highest number of new arrivals in the last year than any office, any resettlement agency in the United States. Now, while we are seeing a little bit of a dip in arrivals right now, while we're waiting for the Biden administration to finalize the presidential determination, we fully expect for that to be happening, to have an increase in arrivals and to be ramping up our resettlement and welcome services and support. So we have a lot to look forward to. Your Financial support, your support and welcome within the community is invaluable to help us fill those gaps for the families that we serve. In addition to our resettlement, our resettlement services. We continue to provide employment services, ESL, vocational English as second language services. We have growing program services to support survivors, foreign-born survivors of crime and human trafficking that serves across 31 counties, in addition to our New Roots and agricultural programming. So there's always a lot happening and a lot of services to support refugees, immigrants, and asylees in Sacramento. So once again, thank you for your generosity and your donation and the support that you all are giving. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Missy. So the donation information is in the chat. It's also on our website, and it's also possible to donate here at church at Sierra Boulevard. We will say together our unison words for the response to the offering on the slide. May the spirit of gratitude bless and multiply all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. And next we will have a song, which is Would You Harbor Me? It is sung by Sweet Honey in the Rock, the singing group that was founded by Dr. Issei Barnwell and by Bernice Johnson Reagan in the All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, D.C. decades ago. And you will see the words so you can read along or sing along if you're moved to sing.
Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor me? Would I harbor you? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett, a Truth, a fugitive or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian or a gay? Would you harbor a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a heretic, convict, or spy? Would you harbor a runaway woman or child, a poet, a prophet, a king? Would you harbor an exile or a refugee, a person living with AIDS? Would you harbor a Tubman, a Garrett, a Truth, a fugitive or a slave? Would you harbor a Haitian, Korean, or Czech, a lesbian or a gay? Would you harbor
Thank you for being with us this morning. Our question for Coffee Hub conversation will appear in just a moment. But right now, I would like to invite you to reach out to one another, reach out to the screen, reach out to me in a gesture of benediction, in a prayer for peace, in a sign of openness and care. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. And for all who seek a right path, may a way be found and the courage to take it, bit by bit, moment by moment, one day at a time. Blessed be. Namaste. Shalom. Salam. The Coffee Hub question for conversation is, where did you or your ancestors come from? Unless you are a Native American, it's probable that you or your ancestors came from another place. And that will be the question that we consider in our small groups by the magic of Zoom. And we will have about 2 minutes of music, of traditional Afghani music before we are divided into our small groups. We'll have 2 10-minute sessions. But first, we need to extinguish the chalice. Jed, would you lead us through that?
We extinguish our chalice flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.